Yet more horrific economic data out of Russia today. Severstal, the largest steel producer in Russia, reported second quarter earnings. They're down 56%. Bloomberg is probably not interested in covering this. Western media is probably not interested in covering this. But when we get, oh my God, the USSR collapsed. When that happens again, we are going to say, nobody saw it coming. It was like this surprise. And well, a lot of people do see it coming, and a lot of people are talking about it. That's why I started this YouTube channel. It's my fourth video. I hope you copy charts, tell people about it because it's really happening. Severstal, number one steel producer in Russia, 26% down just from the previous quarter, 56% down for year over year. That's an annualized, 104% down. Why is it down? Well, because the housing industry is in a full state of collapse. The entire economy has been mobilized to build North Korean weapons factories and commit mass murder on a daily basis in Ukraine. Speaking of mass murder, before we get into more of these numbers, Kyiv underwent one of the largest missile and drone attacks of the war last night. 750 Russian missiles and drones rained on all districts of the city, into apartment buildings. All civilian targets. Once again, the entire city was underground in metro stations, as you can see in this clip. The entire city was in metro stations and in basements with their pets, with their children. A horrific scene that is repeated almost on a daily basis now in the city of Kyiv, and on a daily basis somewhere in Ukraine, whether it's Odessa or, Mykolaiv or even Lviv now. Missiles and drones. This is what Russia's economy is mobilized for. This is what they're doing with all the oil that they sell to India, China, and even the EU. Let's get back to the good news. Good news. May construction starts in Russia down 45%. This chart, you can see it's another apocalyptic drop, as was the month previous, but this is worse. May apartment sales, according to Dome.rf, more data from them today, down 53%. Why do I keep talking about the housing industry? Why is it such a big deal to talk about the housing industry? Well, because the housing industry represents a lot of residual businesses, construction, cement, steel, as you see. So altogether, the housing industry in Russia represents anywhere from 13 to 16% of GDP. So when we have a 50% drop, as we already do, heading into something worse at current trajectory, then it's something you have to pay attention to. Guys that are building houses, everything is beginning to suffer from this. And at the same time, you've got the dual hit because you have massive food inflation. You have central bank rates that are 23.5 or 21%. The average mortgage is 23.5%. Mortgage issuance is down 66% year over year. It's something that Western media is not interested in talking about. And when it all collapses, like, oh my God, USSR, it collapsed and nobody saw it coming. Nobody had a clue. The world's best economists, nobody wanted to talk about it. Well, I'm talking about it. I'm here, and there's many of us talking about it to force this into Western media. So tell your friends, copy charts, tell people about it, because it really is happening, and it's going to change the world. And we can have a whole discussion on what China will do with an ultra-weakened Russia. There's an article today talking about how it looks like there's some intelligence saying that China is already eyeing Siberia. Siberia is, Lake Baikal is enough. It's supposed to be 20% of the world's unfrozen fresh water. A lot of resources up there. Russians have always been too incompetent to figure out how to get things going in the entire country. They're more about just moving forward and stealing what someone else has and laying waste, as you see in Donbass. There's another story today, Donbass. Local residents are out in the streets. They're pleading for water. There's a plea to Putin in which they're saying, hey, look, you have to help us. We don't even have water anymore. That's 11 years under Russian occupation. That's Ukraine that Russia has now been occupying for 11 years. It's turned into total bedlam what started with simple gangsterism has now turned into an infrastructural decay because all the money is always stolen. They don't replace pipes. People don't have electricity, whole sections of cities, and that's not due to war. That's due to just anytime money sits in a place, that money will be stolen. And now it's even worse because now the federal government, Russian government, can't pay for anything because all the cash is going to build weapons factories in North Korea and to murder people in Ukraine and to run propaganda networks to convince the West not to support Ukraine and running sabotage operations like blowing up IKEAs and shopping malls in Europe and blowing up weapons factories, sabotaging train networks, all the things that they're doing, jamming GPS networks over the Baltics, trying to bomb commercial airliners 3 times already this year, hiring Moldovans to paint swastikas all over French cities like 9 months ago. On and on. This is what the Russian GDP goes to. So when we see the housing industry representing 13 to 16% of GDP, and that is already cut in half right now in real time, it's something to celebrate. Because Russia's worldwide terror binge is not going to cease until they just can't do it. Putin has no reason to stop, especially when he's being coddled by the United States. And, he's got a lot of allies, and the free world just can't stand this anymore. It has to be solved. And the only way to do it is to take away his tools, take away Russia's tools. Collapse in harvest numbers, Rostov region. Today, they're looking at a 30% drop in harvest due to there was a late frost this year. All of Europe was cold, but Russia got it worse. But they're adding themselves to the list of regions that have been saying the same thing over the past 2-3 months. So Rostov is just one of them. The overall harvest in Russia it's on target to be horrendous coming in the fall, which will further exacerbate the food situation in Russia. Already, Belarus has been somewhat bailing them out, sending them potatoes and grain and things Russia is now a net importer of food as of the month of May. I did a video about that 2 videos ago. Look, so Russia's in a bad state. Tell your friends. The West can push these guys off this precipice right now by tightening sanctions. And I don't mean by the EU adding 100 ships out of the 800 ships, of the oil tankers from the Russian shadow fleet. I'm talking about real sanctions. You've got to blockade the Gulf of Finland. Do some real damage. Russia can't fight the entire West. It's not going to happen. They're not going to nuke anybody because at that time it's the end. Putin doesn't get to keep his money at that point. You have to understand that's what this is about. It's about his personal power. Make it difficult on the oligarchs. The oligarchs will start talking, and eventually you'll have as is always the case in Russia, the boyars will get a little crazy, and we'll have some situations. Okay, so thanks for listening. Tell your friends.